Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my daughter's graduation ceremony? Original post. I, 40s female, have a daughter 18 female who I'll call Bev. When she was younger, her father, broke up before she was born, was very involved in her life, and she was admittedly a dad's girl. But this all changed when she turned 8 and he got married. He barely called and just abandoned her for his new family. This was obviously hard on her and she rebelled a lot. But she went to therapy and seemed good. Bev has not seen him since she was 12 and he speaks to her maybe 3 times a year maximum. When he calls, she believes he is now back in her life for good, then he ghosts her for the remainder of the year. This being said, Bev and I have a great relationship. We do everything together. She even refers to me as her best friend, so I'd say we have a good relationship. Recently was her graduation and I was excited. But then she came to me a week before and told me she is going to invite her dad and a son. And because her dad doesn't want to see me, I can't come. Bev told me that was the only way he was gonna go. I angrily told her I felt betrayed and won't forgive her for this. She just told me I have been there for many of her milestones and she wants her father to experience some too. Things got heated and we argued. The night before her graduation, I pleaded with her, but she ignored me when I spoke. It only said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not changing my mind." I left and cried, until my sister offered to take me out during the graduation to take my mind of it and I agreed. I woke up the next morning to my daughter bawling her eyes out. I looked at the time and realized the ceremony starts in 5 minutes. I asked Bev why she hasn't left yet. Bev then tells me her father ditched her and isn't answering anymore. I hug her and tell her to make the most of her graduation. She looked shocked and asks if I'm not going to the ceremony now that her father isn't anymore, and how it'll be embarrassing to be the only one there without parents. I told her I'm sorry that I already had plans. She then screamed and called me a bad mom. I apologized once again and got ready to meet my sister. I chose not to go because I felt betrayed and wanted to teach her actions of consequences, even if it broke me that I didn't go. Since Bev returned, she hasn't spoken a word to me, and she looks depressed and like she's been crying for ages. I'm starting to regret not going. My sister says I did the right thing, but one of the moms at my daughter's school said she was depressed at graduation. And now I feel bad that I ruined what was supposed to be a day to remember because I wanted to teach my daughter a lesson. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You gave her an important lesson about maintaining relationships with the people who are there for you and not blowing them off for the next new thing that comes along. I fully agree. Daughter treated her horrendously. Daughter might now go no contact, but she would be an a-hole to do so given how she's treated her mother. Adopi, stop apologizing. You didn't do anything wrong. The more you apologize, the more your daughter believes that she was right in her actions. At best, you can say, "Look, I understand you're hurt and I'm sorry you're upset, but this is a consequence of your actions." You, as a parent, could have handled this better. You could have just went to support her, despite how she hurt you by pulling that crap with her dad. And this is by no means agreeing with what she did. I firmly believe she was an a-hole for that, nor diminishing your hurt feelings. That being said, graduating from high school is a pretty big deal. If I was in the same situation and this happened to my kid, I would have been there for her. Because if you love your child, you stand up for them, despite their misguided and ill-advised intentions to capture the love of an absent parent. Had you done that, it would have the desired effect of her seeing that her dad really ain't shit to where he can even pull it together to be there for his kid. Despite him not wanting to see you, he should have been able to suck it up for at least a couple of hours, as opposed to attempting to ban you from the ceremony. But he didn't. What he did was way worse. He dashed her hopes and let her down. Again. That act alone was sufficient enough to rip the blinders right off her. And you went right ahead and compounded the issue. Instead of being the best friend and parent that she says you are, you essentially abandoned her too. That was like a punch to the gut, and she got a hard dose of reality. Like I said before, I am in no way condoning what she did, but what you did could just as easily backfire on you. Not only did her dad ditch her for one of the most important events in her life, but so did her mother, all in an effort to punish her for hurting your feelings. Being a parent means that this happens from time to time. Nobody's perfect, and we all mess up from time to time. If you don't want your feelings hurt, don't have kids, don't get married, etc. If you don't get ahead of this, you will be on a fast track to no contact with your kid. Do you really want that? As soon as she's able, she'll try to get away and stay away from you as fast as she can. You need to apologize and make it right. But seeing as she still lives with you, you also need to make this a teachable moment. Acknowledge that you acted out of hurt and anger. Let her know while you could have handled it better, your feelings were no less valid. Remind her of the fact that you were there for her this whole time when her father would make only cameo appearances. And for her to deny you the chance to share in this achievement with her was really painful and unfair to you. Help her to understand that her father has shown a consistent pattern of behavior where she is concerned and is very unlikely to change it. He has shown her over and over again who he is. It's time for her to believe him. Do this without bad-mouthing him. I cannot stress enough how important this is. She needs to draw her own conclusions from this. And last but not least, both of you need to go back to therapy. This is a big hurdle to overcome, but with time and patience and a helpful outside perspective, you two can see yourself through to the other side of this. Hoping the best for you both. Final judgment, everyone sucks here. Now for the first update. I don't think I'm a bad mom for this one thing, and I accepted judgment and read everything. To answer your question, Bev does go to therapy. This is the first time Bev has ditched me for her dad. She's been doing it for 10 years. This is the first time I have said no to her after her father abandoned her. I've asked her therapist if Bev is being manipulated, and she said no based on Bev and her father's messages, and my daughter is just grasping onto a reality that isn't there. Update. I went to my daughter and apologized for not going to her graduation. I also explained that it is not a nice feeling to be left out and I feel underappreciated. Also, that is fine to want her father there for her, but I should too. Bev told me that she's sorry things ended this way, and that she loves me, hugged me, and wants things to go back to normal, and that she acted like a witch. I told her nevertheless I should have been there, and if I could do this all over again, I would have gone. Honestly, I said this as I thought she now knew her dad can't be trusted, and I felt for her. Then I asked her if she regrets uninviting me in the first place, and unsurprisingly she said no. This hurt me, but I figured it was because I didn't go so it was understandable. But no, she continued saying that it was probably best I didn't go because she would have been more miserable as she would have preferred her dad to be there anyway. Then I got angry though I didn't show it. I told her my feelings were hurt, especially since I've been there for her. And she said that she's always going to want her dad there for her big moments. I asked, even at the expense of me and knowing he most likely won't show? And she replied, I mean if I have to make sacrifices, I'm going to have my dad there. I repeated the question as she seemed to be swerving it, but she just shrugged and went on her phone. I told her not to expect everyone to apologize and turn a blind eye when she doesn't value them in the real world. And I also said, knowing how she feels, don't expect another apology from me. And this is the last time I'm doing this. She looked teary-eyed, but I left. I don't know how other parents do this. I know her father is going to keep abandoning her, and honestly, I'm at my limit. And if I didn't know whether I was wrong or not before, I definitely know I was right in not going. I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash saying this, but I'm bitter and angry. I understand wanting her dad there, but I should be on the same level of importance as him. I'm still going to be there for her when he inevitably ditches her again. But if this behavior carries on to her next graduation or wedding day, I can't say I'll be that apologetic to her. I should have just listened to NTA. Potentially consider getting therapy yourself, even temporary. I'd have a hard time getting past this, even for my own daughter. I'm sorry this situation is part of your life right now. I agree that Opie should get some therapy if not already receiving any. Opie can't control her daughter's feelings, but Opie can control her own feelings and reactions when daughter acts/disappoints her with wanting dad to show up. Opie, this is a tough situation and I do hope it works out for you. I would have similar feelings of frustration/resentment/anger. Hopefully, daughter will see that her dad's action speaks louder than words. When someone shows you who they are, pay attention. Gosh, I know it's hard, but if she honestly feels that way, then you're right in how you responded. What happens when she gets married? Probably the same thing. That's what I was thinking. How much you betting that Opie will not be invited to Bev's wedding so that her father can walk her down the aisle? I'm so sorry, Opie. I would have been devastated. I feel hard sorry for you. True. And if that happens, I hope Opie doesn't fund a dime of it or lift a finger to help plan a wedding she's not invited to. If daughter truly prefers dad over Opie to the point of excluding her, I'd take a hard look at if you want to continue to be a doormat, even to your own daughter. If raising her and supporting her all of these years hasn't earned you respect from her, then maybe it's time to let your daughter reap what she sows. This hurts to read. I'm sorry, OP. I'm not a parent, but I think at this point all you can do is let her walk her own path. I bet eventually she'll come to terms with the fact that her father is not a man of his word and realize how much you've done for her. Now for the second update. I'm going to refer to Bev's father as Fred. For the past few months, I've done a lot of reflection. Although I can't say I regret not going to Bev's graduation ceremony, I do wish I handled the situation more like an adult. Growing up, I was taught to never ask questions I don't want the answer to, and that is exactly what I did with my daughter. I shouldn't have asked if she regretted uninviting me because truthfully I didn't want to hear the answer, and for that, I think I acted childish. To clear up some misconception, I don't speak to Bev's father simply because he refuses to be cooperative. Also, when I said Bev referred to me as her best friend, this doesn't mean I treat her like my equal. I do parent her. She did get grounded and get her phone taken away when she misbehaved at school, etc., which is rarely. I think she calls me that because she feels comfortable talking to me about everything. Now to the update. There was an incident after where Bev wanted her dad to help her move into her college apartment before term started, but he refused because he had work. She begged for weeks. The whole 3-hour ride to her college was her crying hysterically. My sister consoled her, but if I'm being honest, I was angry. Angry at my daughter as she refuses to go to therapy anymore, but seriously angry at my ex. It took me ages after graduation, but I finally got in contact with Fred's aunt. I explained the situation and that I need to get into contact with him, as he's either ignoring or not getting my messages. He ended up sending me a very long letter. In a small nutshell, it said that my daughter has been stalking and threatening him and his family, and he's been trying to have a healthy relationship with her, but she keeps being aggressive, so he had to distance himself. He acknowledges he hasn't been the best father, but he tried for the past few years, and Bev is too aggressive, so he had to put the safety of his family first. As for the graduation, he wrote that he definitely refused to go. It only said it was probably for the best, as I probably wouldn't feel too comfortable with him there. He said not to contact him again, and that we've done enough damage. He even added photos of messages between him and Bev where she says deeply troubling things, like physical threats. Personally, I thought everything he said was BS and misconstrued. I spoke to Bev and told her of her father's accusations. She broke down in tears hysterically and admitted that she hasn't been the nicest to Fred's wife and child, understandably, but she never threatened and stalked them. I was trying to calm her down. I told her I believe her and suggested therapy. Then she turned on me, blaming me for the breakdown between her and her father's relationship. She swore at me and broke stuff. She told me to stop trying to villainize her father when I'm the problem. She called me a burden and a cancer and said I should have stayed out of her business. I was called a bad mother and told I should burn in hell. To be clear, she was never violent towards me. She packed her stuff and left, presumably back to college. Me or my family haven't heard from her since. I called and called but only got one message from a random number telling me to leave her alone. I told her I'm always here when she's ready to talk. It's been 2+ months since I spoke to her. I'll never admit this to anyone, but honestly, I feel relieved. My self-esteem plummeted and I felt dead for the longest time because of this situation. I'm going to therapy and feel the tiniest bit better. I finally went on a date yesterday for the first time in a decade without getting guilted. In hindsight, mine and Bev's relationship were nowhere near perfect. I don't know what more I could have done, but I wished I did more. She's my child and she was a victim of an overall crappy situation. Now for the closing comments. I fear there will be another update and it will not end well. It never is. One of my former co-workers told me he had to stop contact and visits with his son. The whole time I knew co-worker's son was the apple of his dad's eye, even after he got married and had a baby. Sometime during the pandemic when his son approached 13, something in him snapped. Co-worker said he had primary custody and things had been going well in therapy, but son still had visits with his mom. When he returned, he was vile towards his baby sister and looked at her with nothing but hate. Son started destroying things and threatened to off her and a new wife. The therapist told co-worker that his mom had been feeding him horrible things and to not doubt his threats because son admitted he really did want to off her in sessions. One day he destroyed half her room and tried to take the baby by force. Co-worker was forced to send his son back to his mom. He tried to maintain phone contact and FaceTime, but his mom stopped taking him to therapy or giving his meds. ADHD and anxiety, and it got so much worse. He had to go no contact completely. It won't end well. That kid will do something awful at college. 1. Stalk a popular guy. 2. Sleep with an older or married professor. 3. Do something severely messed up to another girl there. 4. She enters an abusive relationship with an older man that preys on her insecurity. 5. She turns to alcohol/drugs to numb the pain. 6. She has an oops baby with the first genuinely nice young man that she meets and becomes a controlling and hysterical young parent who expects her mother to financially support her whilst manipulating and controlling the access of her mother and the father of her child to seeing the baby. 6b. Father abandons the baby to get away from Bev's manipulative grasp, and the cycle begins again. Jesus, the daughter is messed up. It needs help like yesterday. However, I can't blame the OP. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. Would have been really helpful if her father had actually alerted the mother, so something could have been done in her teens straight away. Yeah, his refusal to communicate with her or tell her about these issues is so stupid and immature. I do wonder if there's something missing there in terms of the reason though, considering OP thoroughly dismisses the seriousness of what her daughter had been doing. I don't know how I feel about a deadbeat accusing the kid who walked out on of stalking. It feels like he was almost mad he couldn't disappear. Like underage kids still knew his phone number and all that. I don't doubt kiddo was nice to new wife and kid, but it's probably more about them than to how much can a kid be mean to people she never sees. It feels like dad is using scary sounding words to get a particular reaction. It feels like kiddo keeps constructing an alternate narrative for each event, where her deadbeat dad promises to be there and then breaks down when reality hits and he doesn't show.